Welcome back to Directionally Speaking. I'm Jeff Zentz, the Senior Director of Innovation for Agronovis, Indiana, and we're here again to have a conversation around innovation and entrepreneurship in the ag bioscience economy. And I'm fortunate enough to be joined by John from NTP Technologies. John, would you be willing to introduce yourself and NTP?
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me here. My name is John Ireland. I'm the CEO of NTP Technologies. We use non-thermal plasma to generate nitrates on site for farmers as a substitute for synthetic fertilizers. Our technology is safe, affordable, sustainable, and salt-free.
John, super exciting and super needed. Let's get into a little bit of that technical information around how do you do that on farm? How do you generate those inputs that can ultimately help a farmer in a way that they can control?
Sure. So probably around 100 years ago, two guys named Birkeland and I decided to develop this technology of plasma in order to generate nitrates. So what they did was they took air and electricity, took air as a gas, added energy to it. It ended up ionizing the air, which they call plasma. The challenge back then, though, was there wasn't a lot of electricity around over 100 years ago, especially on farms. Well, today, obviously, with solar and all the things in terms of electrifying rural America, there is electricity now available. It's relatively inexpensive. So we've taken that technology from 100 years ago, kind of updated it, new metallurgy, new plasma cores, new kinds of power supplies, and developed it into a technology that's easy to use, simple, generates nitrates on site. We're looking to scale that technology up so it supplies enough nitrogen for medium-sized farms.
That's super exciting. And, in a world where those things can be a little bit more uncertain, the availability of getting some of that onto the field or into your crop can be challenging. What does a practical application look like for a farmer that's looking to partner with somebody like NTP?
Sure. So as you know, fertilizer input has changed dramatically. It's 100% relied upon natural gas as input in the Haber-Bosch process, which takes air and natural gas under high temperature pressure, creates ammonia. That ammonia is then converted over into your granular type fertilizers, which you use every single day. Challenges with world politics, with international supply chains has caused extreme amounts of volatility and variability of that input. So we're looking to take that operating cost, which you're buying every single year, not understanding necessarily what the cost is going to be next year, and turning that into a capital cost. You then buy a piece of equipment, you use it for 10 years, and you can kind of zero in on exactly how much it's going to cost you on a per pound basis for nitrogen on your farm. In terms of applications, we're starting sort of on the smaller side. We are looking at farmers who farm 365 days a year and have some sort of irrigation system. That's kind of our ideal type of farmer. That doesn't exclude anybody else. All it is it gives us the best chance of being what we might call affordable and applicable for that size kind of plant. We also don't believe that we're the end all. We believe that farmers will be a tool. This will be a tool farmers can actually use on site in order to generate nitrates as they need it, as opposed to having to rely again on that supply chain.
Well, and that's super exciting, John, because it means that they're going to be more efficient with that, the ability to put what they need on the field, not overbuy or underbuy, not end up in a place where they scramble. Like they have actual control around what they can do, which ultimately gives them flexibility and the ability to be resilient, right?
Correct. So you have, precision agriculture is becoming a lot more prevalent. You don't necessarily have to do everything on an entire field, but then it becomes a little hard to kind of estimate. There's rules of thumb that farmers use in terms of how much fertilizer to actually apply to a field. Well, if you're actually making this material on site, you can actually apply it as needed. What's also nice about our material is that it is applicable for foliar applications. You don't have to worry about it burning leaves or hurting the plant. Again, it's salt-free, so you don't have to worry about it changing kind of your soil. And a lot of times when farmers buy fertilizer, they get like things maybe they don't need as much of. So if you, for example, buy a lot of calcium nitrate, you might need all that calcium. So, but you're putting it on your soil anyway, which calcium has a has a negative effect in large quantities on plant growth. So you got to be careful of that. So then you're switching, your types of fertilizer that you're actually going to use on that farm. And again, we're just a tool. We expect people to be buying granular based fertilizers and integrating our technology into their farming practices as they start getting used to it, as they start seeing how it works on their crop, because it is dependent upon, effectiveness is always dependent upon crops, soil, weather, all kinds of different things. That then you'll have the ability to maybe ramp up on ours and back off that synthetic material.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And an additive piece to the puzzle is always so needed. There's not a silver bullet for every farmer. It's finding the right thing for each operation and getting that in there. So super exciting. John, let me ask you this question. Let's shift gears a little bit. We've talked about NTP, but let's talk about John, the entrepreneur. How did you end up in this path? Were you always passionate about, the plasma world, or is this something that you stumbled across and found a passion for?
It's interesting. I spent about 10 years in the oil and gas industry. I was actually working for a large refiner here in the United States for many of years. So some people see that as kind of the dark side if you're talking sort of on the environmental and impact side. Um, but through that, I have a background in biochemical engineering. I always liked the biology side of engineering. I always believed that plants and microbes could supply a lot of our needed goods and a lot of the things that we rely upon that we can actually generate naturally. Why do we have to have all this man-made stuff available to us? So over the years, I had a couple of startup companies in the energy side. I had one for a little while I was working on that was in data and analytics and stuff like that on college campuses, which was fun. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, I started looking into plasma as a technology and saying, it's kind of coming of age. Again, at the right time, right place to do things. And it says, hey, this might be something that's coming about that's going to have some impact. So I looked at it and I was amazed at how many different applications plasma actually has. But I was also a big fan of agriculture. I have Italian heritage, and we grow a lot of stuff in our garden. I thought it was funny one year when I added, I'm going to say, I'm going to have the greatest tomatoes ever. So I put a lot of fertilizer down, and then I had a tomato plant that was like 3 feet wide, 5 feet tall, and it grew like 2 tomatoes. So obviously I was doing something wrong. So I figured, all right, so this isn't a kind of universal thing. You just throw some stuff down and it grows better. So
Sure.
I figured out over the years that I probably better learn a little bit more about this if I'm actually going to, actually grow crops that have some sort of meaning. Um, and through that, I kind of, again, took the agriculture, the biochemical engineering, the understanding of chemistry and chemistry pathways in biologicals, and saw fertilizer as a market that really needed some additional help in terms of getting it away from sort of that fossil fuel. I had been in that business for a long time and saw how that worked, and I didn't think it's a great way for us to see a sustainable future.
Yeah, that super inspiring, and also I completely understand that path to the ag bioscience world. And I actually have a black thumb myself, so I at least you grew something. If I tried, it would not work. So let's shift gears a little bit. You're taking part in this inaugural Agronovus Velocity program. We're going to spend the next 6-ish months together trying to drive the business forward, helping you in a one-to-one way. Um, what are your hopes for the program? Where are you hoping to be in 6 months that you aren't today, that the Agronovus team hopefully will be able to help be a lever to drive forward into?
Sure. So, as all startups, one of the things we're always wish for was, the money tree that you could actually go out and plant yourself and grow 3 feet wide and 5 feet tall and just kind of pick the money off it. So, we're
Sure.
looking for investors, of course, which many people are. But the reason we're in Agronovus is 'cause we're also looking for customers, people who are willing to do pilots. We had a nice conversation earlier today about some of the other needs we have as startups without a lot of funding. We're looking for data. And in order to find data, we don't have access and can't necessarily afford to actually pay for a lot of statistical data that's out there. So finding people that have access to that to maybe give us a hand, trying to understand our market a little better, trying to understand our customers a little bit better. And then finally, application of plasma is going to be really important going forward. We talk about it, being an appliance, but people, use appliances differently for different reasons. Sometimes to betterment others is a bad thing. You try not to use your screwdriver in order to hammer a nail, right? But on the other hand, screwdrivers are very, very important if used appropriately. Well, right now we have some sort of multi-use tool here that we can use for a whole bunch of different things. Plasma is used on seed treatments. Plasma used generating fertilizer. Plasma is also used for post-harvest treatment. So finding the right application, the right customers we can benefit the most at the beginning, learn a lot from that experience in order to actually then reapply what we've learned to other customers who might not fit perfectly in our wheelhouse today, but in a couple of years might be exactly what we're looking for.
Oh, John, that's so exciting, and it hits to the whole hope of this conversation as a whole. And so let me pause for a second and make sure that all the listeners know that if you are one of those people, whether you're a potential pilot for John's technology, or you know somebody who's got access to data or things like that, there are links in the show notes to contact the Agronovus team, and we will get you in contact with John so you can help drive that forward. Part of our ecosystem, part of the special thing is that we can help each other. And so if you have a unique ability to help John and the NTP team, please reach out to the Agronovus team and we'll make sure you get over to John. John, I've got two more questions for you before I cut
Sure.
you loose, get you off the
Uh-oh.
hot seat. The first is more kind of your experience as an entrepreneur, as a founder. If you could look back and tell earlier John or early stage founder that's getting ready to dive into this world of ag bioscience innovation, what's something that you've learned over the course of this time that you wish you would have known back then that could have helped you in the long run?
Yeah. Never count on the money until it's in the bank. Definitely. Okay. So always keep going, always looking for opportunities. Talk to people, network as much as you can. You might think going down one path is your perfect solution, but you never know where you might find a good connection, some investment, a great customer who helps you, somebody who will actually help you pilot. You never know where you're going to find those. So as much networking as possible is always good. In today's day and age, I think being part of accelerators and being part of incubators and stuff is very important because they give you the ability to kind of speak the same language that other people are speaking, and it's sort of a vetting place. So you get a lot of good experience to go out and talk to investors and to talk to customers and learn how to talk to them and what to say and what's going to get them sort of interested in what you're doing. So that networking, listening is very important. Um, Also, maybe invest in some sort of hair dye or something like that because you will go gray over time.
That's
Proof in
good.
point.
Definitely. At least mine's thinning out. So the gray is fine. So here's my last question for you, John. And this is a little bit of future casting. We've talked a little bit about the next 6 months, but let's talk about, the next 2 or 3 years for NTP. What is your future look like for the organization? Where do you hope to be when we look back retro in 2 or 3 years? What are the things that the business looks like at that point?
Yeah, and interesting because it goes back to the last question as well. One of the things I think is really important is people sort of know where they want to be. And I'm going to answer that question in a second. But getting there tends to be very different paths. So when you're talking to people about, hey, this is who we're going to be this, we're going to disrupt this technology, etc. People want to know, okay, that's great. How are you going to do that? You're going to have to go through a bunch of steps. And there's a lot of companies that says what we started out doing, we ended up pivoting or changing or working our model to the point where it was a different answer in a couple of years. Now, what we've looked at and what we're thinking about, and again, it's just a target. It's not necessarily going to happen, but it's something we got to aim for, and that is to kind of be that appliance on the farm. People look to NTP and say they've got a technology that's affordable, that's easy to use, and we're going to bring it on board. We're going to try it out. We're going to work with it. We think that it's something that we can use long term. It's also something that we can build upon. I would also like to see plasma being something in general that more and more farmers are using because I do think it's a great technology. It's a very green technology and has the ability to help not only again from seed all the way through post harvest in that providing better food and better crops for farmers and for the consumers.
John, that's it. You've done it. You've made it through Directionally Speaking. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Thank you for being a part of the Velocity Accelerator program. We're excited to see what you do in the future and what NTP it has on the horizon. Thank you again, and have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate it.